Hello guys, welcome to Redditor's Revenge. Here we post amazing revenge stories daily. And if you want more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel and stay tuned with us. Moving to today's first story about how OP's new manager framed OP for his own wrongdoings, which leads to destroying his relationship and eventually getting him terminated from his job. So OP exacted his revenge on him and made him pay for it. Now story. I have had my share of unpleasant bosses, but my manager at the firm I work with takes the cake. I do not know how it is possible for a human being to be so evil yet stupid at the same time, but that man somehow managed it. He was not technically my boss but my manager, but since his cousin owns the company, he thinks that he also has shared. And because of him, I was caught in a cheating scandal. Before I go any further, let me start from the beginning. I am 37 and married for 5 years to my wife F36. I have worked for a particular firm since it started around 12 years ago. It had major success and became one of the top firms in the town. I also earn a bit more than regular employees because of my experience and number of years with the firm. It is almost like I was the CEO's right-hand man. I was the unofficial manager until Greg arrived at the firm. He was the cousin of the CEO and responsible for the day-to-day operations since our CEO was focusing on other business ventures. No one liked Greg from the moment that he came in, but we tried our best to be professional. He did not know how to do his job and we picked up the slack for him. We were all too scared to call the CEO and tell him that his cousin sucked because he had put such high expectations on Greg, and no one wanted to get fired because of the blood being thicker than water and all that. So, Greg found a way to make work uncomfortable for all of us. I adjusted to the situation and acted as professionally as I could, even though half of the time I wanted to punch Greg in the face. But I seriously lost all respect for that man when we caught him cheating on his wife with his secretary. Everyone knew that he had a wife. She came to the office nearly every day, and she was the nicest person ever. But one day, she did not come to the office, which I found strange but did not look into. That was until I heard a scream in the direction of Greg's office and joined the crowd of people who had just gathered around it. One of the interns was on her knees trying to pick up broken cups, but that was not the most interesting thing. Because Greg and his secretary were in a compromising situation, and they were trying to make themselves look decent, but anyone could see that they had been doing inappropriate stuff during work time. He screamed for us to leave immediately or he was going to fire us right then. He looked angry that we all scattered. I was surprised that he was sleeping with the secretary, and I felt that it was very gross to do it at work. I also wished that his wife was the one who walked in and saw them. A person like Greg did not deserve a loyal wife at all. His secretary also acted friendly to his wife when she came around but was sneaking around with her husband behind her back. Those two made me so sick. A few minutes after that incident, everyone was buzzing with the new piece of info, and we were all wondering if we should tell the wife or let her find out on her own. I was down for telling her that she did not deserve to be kept in the dark on such an important matter. Well, it did not matter because he told all of us that if we dared to tell anyone outside of the office what happened, we were not going to get our bonuses and he would make sure that we lost our jobs since his cousin was the boss. I wanted to be a good person and tell her, but instead, I chose to listen to that idiot because I did not want to lose my job. If only I could have gone back in time and told her everything, then maybe I would not have found myself in another mess not so long afterward. Greg and his secretary unleashed a reign of terror upon us, and they did not even try to hide that they were still together. And every time his wife would come into the office and treat everyone nicely, a part of me died because I chose to be selfish instead of telling her that she was being taken for a fool by him. The only thing I could do was have wishful thinking that she was going to find out on her own. A few weeks after that, Greg called me into his office and told me that there was an opportunity for me. He said that we were going out of town to meet with investors who wanted to invest in another branch of the firm. He needed me to come with him and help him close the deal for the opportunity to be the manager at the new firm. It was a very big opportunity for me that I had to put my ego aside and think of the benefits to my family if I did do it. My wife and I were earning pretty well, but we did still have a mortgage to pay off and it would take us years still. So I agreed to go out of town with him to secure the deal. We were out of town for 2 days and he booked us into a nice hotel, but what irked me was how Samantha, his secretary, Mistress, had to come with us on the trip. I did my best to avoid both of them because they were not even ashamed to show affection in public. They knew that no one they knew was around, so there were fewer chances for them to get caught. At least that was what they thought. On the morning of the second day, we had just gotten through the most difficult part of the negotiations, so we decided to go to the nearby mall. I wanted to buy my wife a little something to let her know that I was thinking of her, so I did not object to going to the mall. I was just going through the options when I got a call from the boss telling me to meet him at another shop. When I got there, his face looked red and he was breathing heavily. He asked me to exchange jackets with him immediately and to cover for him when his wife came. If I did so, then I was getting the position that he said might become mine. I am not proud to say that the position was more important to me than things between him and his wife. I found that I had no choice but to comply with him because I needed that job, and he said the only other option was for him to fire me. Not even 5 minutes later, his wife came storming towards us holding the secretary with a death grip and glaring at him. She asked him if this was the tramp he had been sleeping with and how dare he take her shopping in public with everyone. He tried to act dumb and ask her what she was doing there, but she shut him down and told him that she had seen him cheating from afar. He told her that she was overreacting and he was not even with his secretary at the time. Then he looked at me and apologized that he was going to out me, but he needed to save his relationship. Then Greg told his wife that Samantha was my mistress, not Greg's, then showed her that I was wearing his jacket. She turned to me and told me that I was a disgusting human being for cheating on my wife, especially when we had just had a kid. I did not deny it since I believed that my job was on the line. Then she took him with her and I was left with Samantha, who tried to thank me, but I told her to save it because she was the lowest of the low. Greg's wife was present for the rest of the trip, and every time she saw me, she gave me the evil eye. It did not feel great to be seen as a bad person when I did nothing while she was sitting with the culprit. I avoided all of them for the rest of the day and was glad to be home after securing the deal, which was the only positive part of that trip. But when I got home, I found out that my wife had packed my bags and left them in the driveway. I tried to call out for her, but she said she did not want to talk to me. She sounded very heartbroken, accusing me of ruining my family. I was very confused as to why she would say such stuff until she told me that Greg's wife told her everything earlier that day. That was not part of the plan, and there was no way I was willing to sacrifice my family for Greg's cheating ways. So I told her that Greg was the one cheating and he had lied that his secretary was my GF. And both of that sounded very bad. She told me to take my stuff and leave. The first thing I did was call Greg, but he would not answer the phone even after I sent him multiple messages. To make matters worse, I was sent an email that I had to report for a disciplinary hearing at work. The way I was so angry, I would have punched Greg into tomorrow if I saw him. I should have never trusted that he would give his word. That situation taught me a lesson that I still value today, and it is to tell the truth no matter the cost. Now I had to sleep in a motel room because my wife thought that I was cheating on her. I sent her messages trying to explain it to her, but she left every single one on reading, so I ended up leaving her alone. I told some of the other employees what had happened and how Greg screwed me over, but they were all not willing to tell the truth to his wife and me. My wife's family was far from impressed with the situation, especially her mother. She thought that I was even more despicable because I did not want to confess to what I had done. The way things were looking, she was capable of divorcing me. One thing about her is that she does not tolerate being lied to and taken a fool of. I knew how strongly she felt about cheating, thus I did not think I had a chance of getting her back without proof. I felt that my co-workers were afraid to find themselves in the same position as me, which was something that I did not blame them for. I had kept quiet when it had been convenient for me, and they had done the same. They tried their hardest to support me, but they were all scared that Greg would get them fired as well. When the disciplinary hearings date arrived, I was fired with no hesitation. Samantha was zero help in the matter, and she told the same story as Greg, that I had been sleeping with her. It was clear that he had paid her to get him off the hook, and I was just going to get hurt in the process. Losing the job, even after protesting that it was not me throughout the hearing, hit me very hard. It added to the pain I was already feeling after being separated from my family. I could find another job, but not at the cost of my wife and child. I knew that I messed up very badly, and I wished that I could go back in time and tell Greg's wife the truth. As I was packing my stuff, Greg came to make sure that I took everything. I told him that my wife was never supposed to find out how I was being put through hell because of his lies. He told me that she was the one who went crazy with the information, and he figured it was easier for me to suffer than for him. Why was I even surprised? He was a selfish bastard, and it was my fault for not snitching on him a long time ago. With nothing to lose, I did what I wanted to do from the first time I met him. I punched him straight in the nose and told him that it was for what he had cost me and he was going to pay, even if I had nothing to do with it. I wallowed in self-pity for so many days, so wondering how I had put myself in such a big mess, and the only thing that I could point to was my inability to tell the truth in the beginning. It was when I was thinking of how I wished I could go back in time that I came up with a crazy idea. It was the first glimpse of hope after such a long time. I could go back in time, at least the security cameras could. I could not believe that I did not think of it during the hearing, but I had proof that he was sleeping with Samantha. I just had to get the footage of the day we caught them in the office. I just needed the part where Samantha ran out of the office looking indecent, and that would explain on its own what had happened in that office. Being in the company long enough, I had a guy in IT who owed me a huge favor, and I believed that it was time for me to collect. I sent him a message that I needed to call in a favor for the one time I helped him in a life or death situation at work, and he was at my place within a couple of minutes. He is a bit fidgety and worried about people finding out that we were talking, but calmed down after I explained that he would not be revealed in any way. He was able to log into the building's CCTV footage and find the footage of that day when we found out about the affair. A camera at another angle showed a bit of what was going on behind the blinds, but the best part was when the intern opened the door and everything was revealed. He extracted the footage and handed it over to me. You have no idea how relieved I was. The first thing I did was send it to my wife, hoping that she would see that I was indeed not a cheater. Then I sent it in an email to my CEO along with exposing that Greg had threatened me to take the fall for him. The very next day, I was called into the office where the CEO welcomed me back. He apologized for firing me and offered me my job back. Well, he offered me Greg's job because he was fired. The best part was that I was there to witness him pack all of his stuff and leave, looking very ashamed. On the same day, his wife contacted me to apologize for not believing me and to thank me for exposing him to his cheating ways. Not only did he lose his job, but he also lost his wife, and she also filed for divorce and got most of his estate in the process. With the job that he used to brag with gone and his reputation in tatters, he left town from what his cousin told me. I figured that it was good riddance. His actions had finally caught up with him. My wife was not impressed that I kept quiet when Greg was cheating, but was super relieved that I was not cheating on her. We did have to work on the trust in the relationship for a while, but I am happy to say that we are stronger than ever. As for work, I was given a huge bonus as compensation for the loss of income during my undeserved suspension. I was also given Greg's job and the first choice for leading the new branch of our company in the coming year or two. Now here is the end of our first story. I hope you enjoyed the revenge OP took on his whole manager, and I believe he deserved everything that's coming for him. Guys, let me know what's your opinion about Greg, and you can also share your stories about your whole bosses in the comments section. So before moving to final story, please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more awesome stories. Now, moving to our final story, which is a quick but satisfying malicious compliance story about how OP's senior officer wrecked a VIP function because they refused to listen to the advice of a lower-ranking officer. Now story. Some background: I'm an audio engineer for one of the military bands in the US. Even though I've been working professionally in the music industry for many years before entering the military, my lower rank, E4 for those who care, is often a barrier to communicating with higher-ups. Some superiors see the value in my experience and advice, but many others see the rank and disregard my opinions. It's not uncommon for me to be loaned out to non-band events to provide guidance. Also, this story takes place in 2020 when the military was under WFH orders. On to the malicious compliance. I was in my barracks room, mixing some tunes on an average weekday when I get a call from my first sergeant. He's essentially the head honcho in my unit, just under the commander. Hey OP, can you go help out and make things go smoothly? Totally. This was a fairly high-level change of command ceremony at the lieutenant colonel level, and the past few ceremonies had gone poorly due to technical problems. I was happy to help. I get prepped and make my way over to the location to start poking around the system. The gear being used is pretty beat up and looks like they chuck it all in a dirty closet. Whatever still turns on for now. I noticed some people setting up the speakers behind the lectern in a way that would feedback as soon as the mic was unmuted. Also, the cable runs were prime tripping hazards with no cable ramps or gaffer tape to hold them down. This isn't just a safety risk, it's also a good way to rip out all the connections from gear. There were a few other minor issues that needed fixing, but those were the most mission-critical problems. I go to find the person in charge and spot a sergeant major overseeing. I make my way over to him and introduce myself as the sound technician for the band, here to help and advise with sound stuff. Off the bat, he's a little short with me. "What can I do for you, OP? We're a bit busy here." I reiterate I'm here to help with the PIA and condense my observations into words. I'm partway into explaining the dangers with his speaker placement when he cuts me off. This isn't our first rodeo, so we know what we're doing. At this point, I'm still going to give it my best shot before this event train wrecks. I make my way over to the staff sergeant plugging in speakers and we start talking about placement and feedback. A minute or two later, the sergeant major comes over and interrupts us. "Hey, didn't you hear me earlier? We don't need you here. You can duck off." "Roger that, Sergeant Major." So I go home and report why I wasn't able to help. The next day, my first sergeant tells me how horribly the system was feeding back, along with crackles and pops. Totally derailed the vibe, to the point where the new lieutenant colonel chose to leave the lectern and just talk loudly instead of using the mic. Moreover, the commanding general of the base had attended and was very unhappy with the whole thing. And lo, the next week a memo comes down to me from the office of the commanding general to upgrade the sound system and put together a training on how to run it. Still makes me laugh thinking what that sergeant major's face must have looked like when they figured out that the only person qualified enough to advise them was the one he had told to duck off. Now, here is the end of our today's story. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And, in my opinion, the douche sergeant might have learned to always seek guidance from someone qualified for the job. This also proves you can't judge any person how she works from their rank or position. Guys, let me know if you had any encounters with such people in your life and what's your opinion about them in the comments section. So before leaving, please hit the like button and do subscribe to the channel to stay tuned with us for more awesome stories.